Right. Okay,
There
there
you go. Um, mhm, mhm. Welcome to the Transforming Lives panel podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Charmin, and Mitzi is here also with me today. And we have a guest, but before we continue, just join me in taking a few deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. And as you take that breath in, just relax and be present, exhaling out all of the stress, the tension, anything that didn't serve you today. Just let it go. Take another deep breath in, focus on the breath, exhale, let go, be present. Join us for the next 30 to 45 minutes as we experience Diane, Randall, and join me back into the room. Thank you. Thank you for being grounded with us. And today we have a guest who is a whole living consultant and wellness advocate with over 20 years of experience. Randall is dedicated to helping busy professionals attain overall well being. She specializes in fostering harmony, holistic wellness, emphasizing self care, and advocating for a plant based lifestyle. Diane empowers individuals to make healthy choices daily by sharing her extensive knowledge and personal journey of living a plant based and vegan lifestyle. She holds a master's degree and multiple certifications. She leverages this solid educational foundation to support individuals seeking personal change, providing them with the tools to lead healthier and a more balanced life. She's also an author of Jumpstart Your Life, Find Your Motivation to Change Your Life One Step at a Time, and a whole life nourished, plant-based living with a holistic approach. Diane has been featured in the New York Times and consulting magazines. She has been on the Oprah Winfrey Show, and she extends her teaching through hosting workshops, engaging listeners to her podcast, Plant Based Curious. Now, join me in welcoming Diane Randall, a powerhouse of knowledge and inspiration. Diane, welcome to the Transforming Lives panel podcast. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. Is there anything you would like to add to your bio?
Oh, you covered it. You covered it.
So, thank you. I have a question. What led you into the plant based lifestyle?
What led me into the plant based lifestyle was having chronic conditions at a young age. If I fast forward back to maybe 25 years ago, I was a young divorced mom with two children. I had
high blood pressure, high cholesterol. Even though I thought I was eating healthy, I actually ended up getting a scope test, and I'm going to fast forward this. And the doctor said I had Crohn's disease. He thought I had Crohn's disease, but he was going to send a sample of the tissue to the pathologist. Turns out that wasn't what I had, okay, but it was enough to get me to change my life, at least the way I ate, because I knew I was headed toward heart attack, stroke, high cholesterol, and those things. Because prior to that, I just had many years of having gut issues and being sick, being on blood pressure medication in my early 30s, as well as cholesterol medication. So that's what drove me to being healthy. Now, I wasn't vegan at the time. That came a little later because I was just trying to improve my health. So it's been a journey. I evolved. It wasn't something I did overnight. I educated myself on what it really meant to be plant-based, because when eating healthy, I guess it wasn't defined enough for me because I was still sick. I still had gut and those other issues I just mentioned. So being plant-based has allowed me to evolve in a way that I never could have imagined or saw coming. I didn't set out to be plant-based. I was just trying to be healthy. But I've learned so much, I've evolved a lot, and I feel that my health improved because of it. So that's why I do it, the work I do today with the holistic wellness and sharing information to people that are interested in learning what it means to be plant-based and vegan.
Wow. Thank you. My follow-up question to that, in your holistic approach to health, how do you balance physical, mental, and emotional well-being?
Mm, that's
Are
a
there?
that's an awesome question. Because what I've learned, at first it was just all physical.
Mhm,
It was just all physical. But
mhm.
what I learned over the years is that okay, I'm working on myself physically, but there's still a mental element here because I had a lot of depression when I was younger. I had a sister that passed away. She was murdered. So that's also set me on a path to figuring out how can I be happy? How can I just be able to look at my life and be happy, not just physically? I recognized that there was something mentally going on as well. So that set me on a journey to trying to understand, okay, what is missing in my life? So what I discovered and uncovered was that the mental goes with the physical. And I've done many, I started from reading books, recognizing that my healing was from the inside out, not outside. So, and I learned that through going to workshops, listening to different spiritual teachers, and also eventually taking lots of courses in spiritual development, also a lot of courses in personal development, and also getting a master's degree in spiritual psychology. All that supported me in figuring out, okay, a whole life means the mental, physical, and spiritual is in balance. And I tell you, I continue to learn and evolve, but that's what it means to have a whole life. It is figuring out what does it mean to you to be whole. I mean, the spiritual part could be it could be tending a garden. It could be sitting in silence. It goes to the level of depth that you read. It could be a prayer. It could be anything that brings you total peace from the inside out.
Thank you so much for clarifying, because I would have wanted you to expand on the spiritual aspect. Oftentimes when we hear spirituality, we automatically align it with religion. So I'm happy that you actually clarified and give us a little definition.
Yes, yes, because to me, I was raised Catholic, but what I've just uncovered for myself is that it's whatever brings you peace mentally, physically, and spiritually. Whatever your definition of that is not for me to tell you what that is.
I have a question for you because you mentioned, of course, and I think it's true for most people that it's kind of an evolution of sort of how things come about. And I'm wondering sort of the evolution from vegetarian or plant-based to vegan, because vegan is quite a bit more stricter and sort of thing. And I'm just, if you could sort of talk a little bit about that part of the journey, because I'm curious.
Okay. The first I'll say is I think a lot of people confuse what it means to be plant-based and vegan. Okay. The plant-based is more about the food. The veganism is about the commitment to the environment, to animals, to the environment, animals, and just committing that animals deserve a life. The environment deserves to be protected, and the climate needs to be protected. That's what veganism is. I was plant based, like I said first, and that was just eating foods that were grown in the ground that didn't have a mother or a face. When I say the veganism came later, for some reason, and I feel that becoming plant based, I was able to step back a bit and I saw animals in a different light. I saw a documentary of a mother sheep that was brought from one farm to another farm. And the sheep was let out of the truck that had brought it to the farm. And the sheep actually, when they took the sheep to the barn, it kept running back to the truck. And in that moment, I recognized that the sheep was looking for its baby. And that's what really got my attention. I'm sure I've seen plenty of movies with animals before, but that particular moment, I connected to animals. And when I say I connected is I see that they love their young, they hurt, they feel sad, just like me. That's what I saw in that moment. And ever since that day, I I don't eat animals because there has to be a deeper level of connection. When people say I've gone vegan, okay, sometimes it just means that they've changed their diet. And going vegan, because we come into this different portals. Some people come in through veganism to save the animals or to respect the animals and commit to the environment. But all it means is you're not eating animal products. It doesn't mean it's healthy. It just means that you're not eating animal products and you're committed to protecting the earth as much as possible, whatever you can do to support the climate change and support the environment. Not leaving a clear footprint on the earth. That's really what it means.
So you mentioned that you sort of started upon this journey because you were having health issues, and that was sort of what. So when you became plant-based, can you talk a little bit about sort of how quickly or slowly you started to notice physical differences and what types of physical, mental, emotional differences you noticed as you continued on the path?
What I can tell you is I started slow. I initially started just not eating meat, not eating, drinking Coke, not eating, small stuff at first. But then when I started having more health issues, my friend showed me at the time, a DVD. And that DVD was called Eat. And in that DVD, it showed people who are correlated between the food and the heart attacks, the diabetes, and all the other chronic conditions. I knew that. I knew that on a certain level, but in that moment, I saw it, that was correlated to issues that would probably cause me to have issues down the line, because I was definitely headed that way. So what the plant-based did for me, and this was immediate, when I decided that this is it, I'm only going to eat foods that are planted in the ground, beans, legumes, seeds. You can make everything today out of plants. What I know, first thing I noticed is I felt lighter, because when I would eat, I'd feel stuffed, I'd feel full. And if I was at work at the time, I would need a nap because I ate so much at lunch, as an example. But what happened was I started feeling lighter, and I noticed right away that I had a lot more energy, a lot more energy. And then I noticed, and this was probably like 3 months, I noticed within 3 months I didn't have anything sweet. And keep in mind, I was a sugar addict. I needed something sweet every day. So about 3 months had passed, and I'm like, wow, I haven't had anything sweet. What happened is my sugar cravings went away. And that's lasted till today. Till today, I have no cravings for like sweets. And the next, sorry.
No, sorry, go ahead.
And the third thing that happened was, and this was in a short amount of time too, I went down a whole pant size really quick. So quick that it blew my mind so much. I was scared to buy a smaller size because I thought that it was temporary. This couldn't be true. But it was, and from that time, I've just evolved. I would join meetups and groups to learn how to eat. What does it mean to be plant-based? What does it mean to be vegan? I would attend workshops. So that's how I've learned so much over the years, is really seeking out the information. Because back then, especially, it was very hard to find plant-based food or vegan food like it is now. It's pretty easy now. Going to learn how to cook, going to cooking classes, learning what to eat in restaurants. I mean, it's been a journey. It's been a journey, but it's been well worth it. And I would say 21 years have passed, and I don't have chronic issues. So I'm definitely connecting that to my plant-based lifestyle. Definitely connecting it to that.
Thank you. I'm smiling because I just completed a veganism course on one of those websites, and I read about, I learned about Donald Watson, who actually coined the word
Yes.
vegan and the
Yes.
roots of that. And I'm sure if he was alive today, he would not have envisioned where the vegan lifestyle, that veganism has become a lifestyle. So, I mean, I have so many questions because I've tried being vegan, but I like fish. And I would be vegan for 3 months, and then I would eat a piece of fish. And I don't know if I don't have the discipline, maybe you can help me.
It's not about discipline or willpower. It really isn't. It is, if you ate fish after 3 months, there's no judgment. You can always start the next day. I always say every day is a new day. When I started, I was a meat eater, and fish was the last thing I let go of. Over time, I evolved. And I think part of that was the more I learned, the more I was able to, it wasn't even I always say I evolved out of eating meat. Yeah, and it's not something you say, boom, I'm done with this overnight. And I'll tell you, for a long time, if I would want a burger, I would make sure I ate a black bean burger. I had to have an equivalent for what I gave up, because my brain still wanted the hamburger for a long
Mm-hmm.
time. It still wanted what it wanted. But I learned how to have that plant-based equivalent ready, so that when my brain, because your brain is in control, okay? When my brain wanted that burger, I made sure I had a black bean burger. Still had my burger though. Still had the foods that I like, but I had the plant-based equivalent. That's what I did early on. I mean, when I had no discipline, when I got those cravings of what I was used to, I wanted to make sure that I had the food that would support me in that. And I had to have it close at that time.
I like that practice. My issue what that I have with the plant-based or vegan diet is the soy, and I try to substitute, and then I'll be, like I don't want to eat tofu. I don't want to eat any soy products. So I'm just going to go eat my fish. So,
Yeah, and if you don't like soy, you don't have to eat soy. There's several alternatives like tempeh, which is a protein it's a protein alternative, and it has mushrooms have a consistency of meat. Oyster mushrooms, lion's
lion's
mane.
mane.
Yeah, now you can make lion's mane taste like a steak, and you can
Yes.
make it taste like fish. You really can.
So
Yes. Yes.
I have two questions in relation to it as well. One being, I'm allergic to sesame seeds, poppy seeds, and tree nuts. So a lot of the protein that is provided in a plant-based diet is from those types of sources. So when you're allergic to those things, I can't have hemp seeds, I can't have psyllium, I can't. So many of the substitute flours or the bean burgers or the things you're talking about, they have ingredients in them that will kill me. So, and the other question secondarily is the whole thing of anemia, because anemia runs in my family, and my sister tried being a vegan and so did her kids, and they were always having severe issues with anemia.
Okay, here's the thing, and I'll tell you this. If you're not eating a balanced diet, you will have issues. You get protein from leafy greens. You get protein from beans. If you can't eat seeds, you can't eat seeds. But the protein comes from green leafy vegetables, beans, no seeds, grains. I don't know if that's similar to what you're talking about, but
Yeah.
the leafy greens has more protein than any meat that you can eat. I've never gone to the doctor and the doctor said you need more protein. Never. When the cows, if you notice, chickens, cows, pigs, they do not eat meat. They eat plants. And basically, they eat the plants and we eat them for protein. But they're just in the middle. They eat the plants for protein.
Sounds.
So I say I just took out the middle animal and I just go directly to the source, which is the leafy greens. Yeah, I haven't had any uh, uh, vitamin deficiencies, but I can understand if you're not, because I've heard people say that. If you're not eating a balanced diet, so if you're just eating vegan food, and vegan doesn't necessarily mean it's healthy. But if you're eating well-rounded plants, fruits, vegetables, beans, then you won't have any problems. And you're getting more protein than you need. And fiber.
Oh.
Diane, I'm just going to switch gears a little here. How do you empower busy professionals to embrace the holistic wellness and make lasting changes and sometimes even change their demanding schedules and those high stress environments that we tend to thrive in, believing that this is the way, that this is who we are.
It's who we are, and that's where I came from. And what my work is to meet you where you are. The first thing is that you acknowledge that you want more of peace, more empowerment, more balance in your life. It's something that you acknowledge. You just don't know how to go about it. So that means to me that you're willing and ready and open to a conversation. And basically, we talk about that. We like a questionnaire. We have a conversation. And by the end of that conversation, I know what you want, what's important to you in this moment. So it's basically understanding that you want to change your life and create a life that brings you whatever you want. So that was the reason for my first book, Jumpstart Your Life, because it's acknowledging and identifying, what do I want in my life? How can I set the priorities and actions on a daily basis that would support me in creating what I truly want? And it is a practice. Once you identify, and what I do is I have people, and then it's 10 areas of life. Okay. So maybe I want to improve my health. Maybe I want to improve my career. It is you identifying where exactly you want to make a change. And then we take that change, and I have you look at your current priorities. Do your current priorities support what you just said you wanted? And usually the answer is no, because we're busy, because we get up and we do what we do to get ready for work, and and then we come back in the evening. So it's looking at those priorities to really see if there's anything we can change, since we've now identified what we want to improve. So if we're saying our health. So it's if you're looking at your priorities, it's taking away those things that don't support what you want for yourself. It's finding time in those priorities to fit in what you're saying is important to you, or what you would like to do. And the next step to that is writing, and writing, let's say just a short paragraph of who would you be if you had that life? What would it look like? Who would you be talking to? What would you be doing? And it's writing that out, and it has to be at least 70% doable and true, close to doable. And the next step is to write an affirmation based on that essay and what you said you wanted, and taking those essays, just a few short words, and putting them on your mirror, putting them on your closet, putting them in a spot, maybe on a post-it note where you can see it every day, so that you are reminded of what you say you want. And then from that, we create actions that will support that particular part of your life you said you wanted to improve. It could be one action. Yeah, in the book and in the class that I would teach, you had to have 2 actions to support that goal, because what you want to do is have something realistic by the time we finish our work together. So if it's health, we want at least a 2 actions to a plan of how do I improve my health. And it's just a basic, and if people have said, Diane, this is too much, okay, let's break it down even further. Instead of actually going in the gym, maybe it's a phone call to ask questions about the gym, if that's what you want for yourself. And it's really bringing what you want to create for yourself from your head, from acknowledgement into reality.
When you're
And then,
taking, oh, sorry, go ahead.
that's okay. I'm done.
I was just gonna say, when you're taking people down the path of making these changes, so I've often heard that if you want to change something, change one habit at a time and replace whatever that was with something new. So because otherwise you kind of feel like there's a void. So for example, if it was that you would always eat in front of the TV, you find something like crocheting in front of the TV to stop yourself from eating or something along that line. So when you're sort of taking people through this transformation, can you talk a little bit about your process of how you kind of work with that?
Well, it's based on that question, that conversation, or those conversations that we've had. So like you just said, if it's about my health, then I've told people, do you have a streaming app? Can you use more on demand than real TV so that you can fast forward through the commercials? Or today it's easier because a lot of the on demand programs don't have commercials unless you're using the Prime or something like that. But there are certain ones that don't, and it's finding the ones that don't. It's like, what do you need to help you to be successful in this process? And it's a practice. It's a practice every day. People, you know what? I ate a burger. Like Charmin said, she ate fish. Okay, that's fine. Tomorrow's another day. And it is a practice. So yeah, it is setting boundaries around what you say you want, and we go through, what does that look like? Because if you go visit Aunt Jody for Thanksgiving, okay, how am I going to handle that? So it's walking through all of that. It's setting boundaries for yourself. It's being intentional. That's my main word. Now you have to be intentional about your life. So if you know that sitting in front of the TV and a commercial is going to trigger you into eating something, then you are taking responsibility for not allowing that trigger to move forward. And even if it happens, it's you understanding and knowing that this is a trigger for me. I cannot sit in front of the TV and watch these food commercials anymore. So it's just you taking that responsibility for your own transformation. And I'm here to support you.
I think you brought up a really good point, which was that figuring out what are those triggers for you, because for everybody,
Yes.
whatever those triggers are is different.
That's right.
And you touched on something also that was one of my big questions, which is that whole, eating is such a social activity, and you sort of get closer to someone. They say, when you break bread, and so, again, just because it's easy, I'll use myself as an example. When I used to go, when I first started going and visiting my mother-in-law, I mean, she loves to bake and cook. I mean, that's her joy, is to make these amazing meals and feed her family. And so, with my allergies, it took her a long time, for example, to understand that, no, it wasn't a case I didn't like that, but I cannot eat the thing with the nuts because it'll kill me. But then, if it was something that she knew I wasn't allergic to, as an example, like the banana cake, which was so freaking awesome, like, how do you, like that sort of dealing with people that you care about, you don't want to hurt them, but they have an undue, like, family and things like that?
Well, I'll tell you, this is a huge one. And this was a huge one for me. Okay. Initially, when I talk about setting boundaries, it's also having the courage. Okay. When I first became plant-based, I would go around my family Thanksgiving. I did feel like an outsider. I felt left out. I was even questioning, wow, do I need to even come anymore? I was going through those things. But what I recognized was I have to be true to myself. And my boundary is I do not eat animals. I do not eat meat. No, I'm telling you, mentally, this is where the mental piece is, more mentally, because you're right. Food is love. Food is, people cook with love. They want to share it. But here's what I said to this is my journey, my goal. And it's not that I'm being selfish. I'm honoring what I said I needed for Diane to be a human being on the planet and to serve in a way that doesn't harm anyone, including the animals. So I just learned to, try to be intentional. Not try, but I was very intentional. I would let the person know that I was plant-based and vegan. I would take a dish, even though 90% of the time nobody touched it, but that was okay. But that was something I could eat. I always took something I could eat. And I didn't really feel bad about hurting feelings because nobody asked me what I wanted. You know what I mean? Nobody really asked, I'm going to cook a plant-based meal. Not that they had to, but I really had to figure it out for myself. And that's not to judge anybody. It's really your journey to figure it out. But that was my boundary, that I wasn't going to eat regular or traditional food because that's not something that I was going to do anymore. I was in a whole different space, and my family understood, and they're still not plant-based and vegan, but it's okay. They respect my boundaries, and I respect them for what, they eat and what they do. And it just takes time. It just takes time. And, it's not about hurting anyone's feeling. It's just honoring what you say you want and what you need as taking on eating differently, and not necessarily making people feel like they have to join you, because they don't. you know and my family, they'll go to a vegan restaurant, but when Thanksgiving rolls around, they're still, cooking the way they cook, and it's fine. But what I don't do, and this took a long time, is I don't partake in the Thanksgiving food anymore, because over time I just got to the place where I didn't want to do that anymore, and I just learned how to honor myself and what I want and what I need to be true to who I say I want to be. And I'm not saying that was easy, because mentally it's a lot, but you just take it one day at a time, one meal at a time, one conversation at a time, because people will try to talk you out of it. But like I said, you have to have courage. You literally have to have courage and be intentional. If I can tell you three things: being intentional, having courage, and setting boundaries around what you say you want to create for yourself. Because if you're changing every time you go around other people, family members, then you're not really being true to yourself. And this is where you practice that. You communicate that to your family. 9 times out of 10, they understand that for you. It might not be for them, but they understand that for you. Most of the time, they receive it.
And I think you brought up a good point, because I think in some ways it's similar to religion. Sometimes there's people who, there's all kinds of different religions, and everybody can love and enjoy what there is. But then there's certain segments who are always trying to convert somebody else into whatever their way is. And maybe part of that sort of thing with veganism, with being a vegetarian, is early experiences of that sort of massively trying to convert everybody to be like that. So then you kind of like almost get your back up, versus what you're saying is like, this is what's right for me, and these are my boundaries and what I need, and I'm happy to educate you and let you know. But if this isn't what's right for you, that's okay.
That's right. Because the in your face vegan doesn't work. It just makes people mad. Nobody wants anything put. It's no different than the religion being pushed down your throat. It's no different. But what I do is I feel I'm a role model for myself. And in that, I have inspired more people by just focusing on what I do and what I eat when I go out, when I'm around people. I have had more questions just being that. That's been more empowering than, I never thought being in someone's face about what they should be doing, because it's all a individual choice. And guess what? You may not get there in this lifetime, and it's okay. It's okay.
Diane, thank you much for sharing so many nuggets. Can you share an inspiring story or a success story of a client who underwent significant transformation under your guidance, and what key factors contributed to that success?
Well, I have a friend, and I'll just share that journey because that was the hardest. She, just like all of us, we grew up eating animals and eating what we eat. Actually, she would get so angry with me, because when we would go to restaurants, I'm eating one way, she's eating the other. We almost ended our friendship because there was such a divide when I switched. I wasn't fun anymore. I was high maintenance, all these things. But, it was really, really hard. So what I started doing was just communicating with kindness that why I was eating the way I was eating, and what that did for me. And I would say for months, she heard me, but she didn't really say anything. And one day she called me and she said, "Well, I've been, trying some of those dishes you like, I mean, she was really hardcore about, just being interested, But what was so tough was because we were, it's like oil and water almost sometimes when you decide to change. And a lot of people don't want you to change, because not only does it change, they have to change to just be with you. So we went through that for months and months and months. And I would say slowly, just by me trying to be the bigger person and just saying, this is what I chose to do. It's better for my health. It's better for the planet. And, if you can't understand that, then I understand that too. So what happened was she started changing herself, because guess what? She wasn't in the healthiest way either at the time, And she started slowly coming around. And I didn't say too much about it, because I saw her and I didn't like applaud her or anything, for a while, because I felt that if I acknowledge her, then that might, stop things dead in the water. But over time, she transitioned. She transformed herself. She became more vegan at first than plant-based. So like I said, you come in at a different portal. And today we've gotten past all the, I'd say, anxiety, all the triggering. And now she's a big advocate for animals, animal rights. And even with my clients, I take it really, really slow. There's no race here. You are where you are. Just because I can't become plant-based doesn't mean that you're going to become plant-based. Maybe you start with the environment. You don't want to harm the planet anymore. That's where you start. Everybody has a different starting point. And with my clients, it's for me to try to understand where that person's starting point is and meet them right there, and then talk to them from that point about where they want to be. So if it's the environment, it may be providing education on the water, the climate, and different things that are going on, pointing them to different statistics because there's science behind all this stuff. So, and that makes it real for people. So, yes, you have homework to understand. Don't just listen to me. I'll provide the baseline information, but it's your job to be intentional about learning more about the environment and learning more about how you can really help lessen your footprint in the environment. So there's that, and then there's just practice every day. And then it is, if you have questions, you call me and we meet, on a regular basis or however you want to meet. And if you have questions or if you feel like, oh my gosh, I used plastic. Okay. It's not beating yourself over the head because you use plastic. And it is, you are where you are at the time. It's a process and it's about evolving. I remember people would say, oh, you have a leather purse, and one day whatever I had, I said, you know what, this is where I am in my process, you know, because trying to think that you can just turn into a vegan overnight is insane, because what you learn is everything's made out of an animal. Things you wouldn't even dream of is an animal. So you evolve as much as you can evolve, one thing at a time, and it's not about putting pressure on yourself. And that's what I instill in people I work with as well. It's not about pressure. It's not about blame. It's not about discipline. You know, it's not about any of that. It's a practice. It's a practice.
Could you please let our listeners and viewers know how they can get in touch with you? Best ways, because obviously you have some great information, and I'm certain people are going to be wanting to reach out to you.
Okay, my website is www.dianerandallconsults.com, and I released my book about a month ago, A Whole Life Nourished, Plant-Based Living with a Holistic Approach. And it is about my journey. It is about a lot of things that I've learned. I put it all in one book to support people in how to live plant-based and vegan, if they're interested, with a holistic approach.
And you also mentioned courses can that be found on your website?
Well, the course that I do workshops. Yes, the workshops. I have a workshop tab, and I do workshops. I do. So they can come to my website and click on workshop to see what I have available. And if there's something out there they're interested in, then they can send me an email or a contact message.
Thank you so much, Diane. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your personal journey, and we hope that you will join us again, because you still haven't scratched the surface. There's so much more to you. We would like to see you back at some point.
I would be happy to come back. So thank you, Charmin, and thank you, Mitzi. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Transforming Lives Panel Podcast. We hope that you received some nuggets of wisdom and seeds to plant along your journey of transformation. If you enjoyed what you heard today, we encourage you to let us know and to share us with those that matter in your life. If you would like to connect with anyone from the panel or our guest speaker, you can find all of the ways to connect in our show notes. We have so much gratitude for you, and we are so thankful to be a part of your day. Until next time, take great care.